Good day, everyone. Today, we're going to be looking at how to give your report during the retraining section the right way as a product or project manager and assistant, and also as a service manager. Just as you can see on my screen, these are all of the content we're going to be looking at today. But first, what is project and product management? Now, product management is a business process of planning, developing, launching, and managing a product. While on the other hand, project management is the process of leading your team to achieve all project goals within the given constraints. So first, why does the retraining section hold? Now, the purpose of the retraining section is to help project assistants and managers understand the projects, products, and services handled in the organization, understand how to use the approved methodology and framework in achieving delivery, and educating ourselves every week to stay grounded in our career path. I know you'll be asking, why do I need to give my report during the retraining section, even when I give my team lead an update on what I do? No. Reporting in project management helps in providing a high-level overview that offers critical data the project generates in a simple, easy-to-use format. Now, project reporting is very essential to the success of project management, product management, service management, since it provides a window into what is happening and what to do about it for the entire team. We'll be looking at the methodology and framework or practice to use, and these are our focus areas for today. We'll be looking at Agile for project and product management and the ITIL framework for service management. In BINCOM, the approved methodology for product management is the Agile methodology, which is what we call an iterative approach. And in report giving, you are expected to give your report with this in mind. You need to keep your mind ready to say, yes, I am using the Agile methodology in my project management. Now, in my product management, sorry. Now, with this image in mind, which we call the agile planning onion, you can see a roadmap or a vision of what you need to do. You see your daily iteration, release roadmap, and vision. Now, note that this are the processes in agile product management. We have the strategy, experiment, test, validation, and repeat. Using this the agile planning onion in mind. Now, the repeat is the most important step, since we said Agile is an iterative approach. Continue to circle back through the Agile process flow, which is the strategy, experiment, test, validation, like an engine. Now, this flow is intentionally clean, sec, excuse me, it's secular to encourage learning. What you need to do while practicing the agile product management is to learn from it, adapt from it, celebrate it, and embrace the flow of change. Now we are going to talk about the agile flow. Like I said, strategy, experiment, test, validate. Now, using Scrum, which is the famous framework in agile methodology, this allows for what we call product backlog, and there are ceremonies in Scrum, which are the sprint planning, which is used to plan the work the team wants to commit to for the new sprint. We have the sprint review, which is a time to demo any progress to each other and stakeholders, as well as cover any learnings. The sprint retrospective, a time for the team to look back at the prior sprints and discuss what went well, what didn't, and how you can grow from those things. And we have the backlog grooming and the daily stand up. Now, the daily stand up, which I know each of us are aware of, which is a regular time each day for the team to share what they completed yesterday, what they are working on today, and if they are blocked by anything. Now, with all of these ceremonies in mind, it must be used to describe the stage your product is in. So if you intend to give your report, you need to give your report with these ceremonies in line, referring to these ceremonies also. Now we have a theme. When we talk about Scrum, there are actually some things that are involved in it. We have the Scrum Master, the project manager, product owner, the developer, designer, text engineer, or the Q&A. Now, developers, designers, test engineers are otherwise called the team, because I know if you read a lot about Scrum, you would actually come across the Scrum Master, the product owner, and just the team. But rest assured that when you mention team, you're referring to developers, designers, or the test engineers, depending on how your team is formed. Next, we'll look at the Agile for project management. Now, also in the organization, we know that the approved methodology for project management is the Agile methodology, which is, like I said, an iterative, which we can call an iterative approach. Now, in reports giving, you are expected to keep in mind that you're giving your report as an agilist, or as a team which is made up of an agile team. Now, agile methodologies take an iterative approach to software development, and agile projects normally consists of number of smaller circles that you also call the sprints, and each of the sprints is a project in a smaller form or in miniature. Um, it has a backlog, and it consists of the design, implementation, the testing, and the deployment stage, just like you can see on my screen. Yes, I know that some of us have come across the phases of project management, which is the initiation, planning, execution, performance monitoring, and then the project closing. Now, with Agile, you're able to always go back to whatever stage, whatever of the phase I just mentioned, after, excuse me, after after each sprint. So you're able to review what you have been able to achieve, and you can always, retrace your step to go back to what the areas that you need to go back to. Now, Scrum actually relies on three main artifacts, including what I initially mentioned. We have a part of those ceremonies, like I mentioned, the product backlog, which is an ordered list of featured items that might be needed in the product's final products. The project's final products. The backlog updates as new requirements, fixes, features, and details are being changed or added. So if you're giving your report and there was a change or an update that you added to your backlog, that can also be informed. We were able to we were able to updates our backlog with some new features because of what we experienced or what we noticed during our sprint. So that can also be included. We have the sprint backlog, which is a list of tasks the team must complete or deliver on. And team members agree on which product items to deliver and then define a plan to how to do so. And the last we have is the sprint burn down chart, which illustrates the work remaining in a sprint and helps both the team and the scrum master, as it shows progress on a day-to-day basis and can predict whether the sprint goal will be achieved on schedule or not. The next we'll be looking at is ITIL for service management. Now, ITIL is the approved framework for service management in the organization, and ITIL is a framework of processes for service management and is made up of 5 stages. Those 5 stages are the service strategy, service design, the service transition, service operation, and the continual service improvement, which every service must go through. There are a couple of roles we have in service management, which is the service owner that is responsible for the overall design, performance, and integration. We have the service manager, the resources, which are the resources can be the money, equipment, time, or a staff. And then a service is actually just saying you're delivering value to your customer without the need to specify cost and risk, and as well as access, which is the level and scope of functionality of a service that the user is allowed to use. Now, I made mention of this because we come across this on a weekly basis. You have a service manager working to make sure that the service is delivered at the appropriate time. You have resources working on making sure that the service is delivered to the customer. And on my screen, you can see the framework broken down. And inside this box, you can see ITIL. Outside of it, you can see the stages, and then what we see outside here are actually called the processes. So each of the stages of service management also has its processes. So while you're working on your service design, you go through what we call the catalog, the service level, the availability capacity, and so on, as well as when you talk about the transitioning of a service, you look at the planning, the change, the configuration, release, and validation. So while you're giving your report in any service you are offering, this is what you need to put in mind. These are the terms you need to actually use in giving those reports, so that you as the persons the persons listening in can understand what you're saying, learn from the terms you're using, and you can also be conversant with using those terminologies on a day-to-day basis. Now, what are the benefits of proper reporting? Not just coming to say, this is what I did, this is what I did, this is how I did it, but no, with proper reporting, you're increasing communication, you are improving productivity, accuracy, and timeliness. Because while you're giving your reports, other team members are aware of what you're doing. You might have missed something out, and somebody can say, oh, this is what you need to do. Let's say, for example, you did a sprint, you did a sprint review, but you actually never did a sprint retrospective. Someone can say, why if you noticed this, why didn't you do a retrospective to understand really what went wrong and how you can grow from not allowing that happen again. So proper reporting also improves decision making and then efficiency within the organization. And the most important thing, why we insist that you use the right terms, the right process in giving your reports. It's for each and every one of us to have a broader understanding of the methodology and the framework in place for projects, products, and services, and help you get comfortable using the agile terms and the ITIL terms, not just in the organization where you currently work, but when moved you have moved on and you decide to take your career to a better to another level, or while you're growing in your career, because while you're as we all grow in our career and we are conversant with saying things like okay, my team of agile developers were able to really come together. We were really able to break down the tasks on our backlog and assign tasks and timelines. All of those things makes you comfortable in speaking outside, in really showing people that yes, truly you are a project or a product manager that really knows what he or she is doing. Now, I'm going to give a case study, just a little way to explain how you can give your reports. And I'll be using Become ICT website development as a case study, which is a project I am currently working on. Now, I know that Become ICT website development is a project because it has its start and finish dates. So if I were to give my report to you, this is what I would need to say. Good afternoon, team. Which is everyone on the call on the retraining section. I and my team are currently working on the redevelopment of Become ICT website. Now, this week, the UI UX designer was able to recreate the images needed for sliders, and the developer was able to input them. Now, this helped us tick a task on the backlog, and during the sprint review, we were able to determine some errors, and those tasks that we marked as completed, we also were able to leave them or mark them as done. You can also still say this week we were successful in keeping to the schedule of all tasks assigned. Our daily stand-ups helped determine roadmap as well as resolve them, and a sprint review was done. The truth is, while you are actually doing a sprint review, you will determine you determine if there are roadmaps, if there are roadblocks, if there are errors. You'll be able to know those, as well as your daily stand-ups. It also helps you determine where you are currently, where the team you're working it with is currently. Um, So with all of this in mind, I would advise that we watch this video again, try to understand the right terms to use. You can do your personal research. You need to understand if you're working on a project, if you're working on a product, or if you're working on a service. And you need to give your report, putting in mind that this is the approved methodology to use. Once again, you are using the Agile methodology for your projects and product management, and the ITIL framework for your service management. Thank you for joining me today.